All right, welcome back everyone to the deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into something that a lot of you are probably familiar with, or at least know someone who's dealt with it, teacher burnout.
It's a big one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to be trying to figure out if there's like a connection between how confident teachers feel in managing their classroom, like how good they think they are at it, and whether they end up experiencing burnout. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial to look into this, I think.
Mm.
Teaching is, well, everyone knows it's a really demanding profession, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just think about all the different things a teacher has to deal with every day.
Right.
It's not just the kids, it's colleagues, it's
Yeah.
administrators, parents. It's like a constant juggling act,
Mhm.
And that kind of pressure, well, it's no wonder that teachers can be more susceptible to burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you listening, it's important to remember that teacher burnout, it's not like just an individual thing. It's a much bigger issue, right? It's a major reason why teachers leave the profession. And when that happens, it impacts, well, everything really, the whole education system, students, communities. It's a ripple effect.
Totally.
So the big question we're diving into today is there a link between how effective a teacher feels in the classroom,
Hmm.
what's called classroom management, self-efficacy, and whether they're more or less likely to experience burnout. So, like, how good you think you are at classroom management affects how likely you are to burn out.
Exactly. And to get into this properly, we've got this really interesting research paper. It's a meta-analysis, actually, called Classroom Management, Self-Efficacy, and Burnout, a multivariate meta-analysis. It's from 2014, published in the Educational Psychology Review. A bit of a mouthful, but really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, so as always, our goal here is to break down this research for you, see what we can learn from it, and hopefully offer some insights that are, well, actually useful for those of you in the trenches. So first things first, we need to make sure we're all on the same page here. So what exactly do we mean by classroom management self-efficacy? Can you like unpack that for us a little bit?
Okay, so Classroom Management, Self-Efficacy, CMSE for short, because it's a bit of a tongue twister,
Yeah.
right? It's basically it's basically a teacher's belief in their own ability to manage their classroom. It's about how confident they feel in engaging students, and especially in handling any disruptive behavior.
Right.
It's been a key area of research for a while, actually. Back in the early 90s, researchers like Emmer, they really started to emphasize this idea of a teacher's own personal belief that they can create a productive learning environment.
Okay, so it's like it's the feeling that you've got what it takes to, keep things under control and actually teach. Now let's talk about the other big term here, teacher burnout. What exactly does that look like?
Right. So teacher burnout, as defined by Maslach and other researchers, is basically a syndrome.
Yeah.
And there are three main components to it. The first is emotional exhaustion. And that's that feeling of being completely drained, both emotionally and physically. Like you've got nothing left to give.
Yeah, I think we've all felt that at some point, that total depletion.
Exactly. So that's the first part, emotional exhaustion. The second is depersonalization.
Okay.
And this is where a teacher starts to kind of intentionally, you know, distance themselves from other people. It might be from students, from colleagues. It's that feeling of being uninvolved, maybe even cynical in those interactions. And it's often, a way to protect themselves.
Yeah, it sounds like a really tough place to be, especially in a profession that's so much about connecting with people. So that's two, emotional exhaustion and depersonalization. What's the third one?
Right. The third part is what's called lowered personal accomplishment. And this basically means that a teacher doesn't feel that sense of fulfillment in their work anymore. They might feel like they're not growing professionally, not achieving their goals, not really making a difference. It's the opposite of feeling effective and successful in their teaching.
Okay, so just to recap for everyone, burnout isn't just about feeling a bit tired at the end of the day. It's this combination of being totally drained, feeling disconnected from people, and losing that sense of accomplishment. Now, this deep dive is based on a meta-analysis. Can you explain what that is for those who might not know?
Right. So a meta-analysis, it's basically a research study that doesn't collect any new data. Instead, it takes a whole bunch of existing studies that have looked at a similar question, and it analyzes them all together. It combines all that data to get a bigger, clearer picture than you could get from any single study on its own.
So in this case, the researchers looked at a bunch of studies that had already investigated whether there was a link between how well teachers felt they could manage their classrooms and those three aspects of burnout we just talked about.
Exactly. They pulled together 16 different studies that had looked at these connections. So they're trying to figure out, is there a real link here? And if so, how strong is it?
Okay, so we've got our definitions down, and we understand the whole meta-analysis thing. So what did they find? What did they discover about the link between CMSE and burnout?
Well, the key finding is that there's definitely a link. There's a significant relationship between how confident teachers feel in managing their classroom and all three dimensions of burnout. It really suggests that a teacher's belief in their ability to manage their classroom is tied to their likelihood of experiencing burnout.
That's a pretty clear takeaway right there. Can we break it down a bit further, though? What kind of relationship did they find with each of the burnout dimensions?
Sure. So let's start with emotional exhaustion. They found a moderate negative relationship with CMSE. Now, what that means is teachers who have a higher sense of classroom management self-efficacy, they tend to report feeling less emotionally exhausted. They're more in control, so they feel less drained by the demands of teaching.
So if you feel like you can handle the day-to-day chaos, you're less likely to feel totally burned out by it.
Exactly. It's like, if you're constantly putting out fires, you're going to get tired faster. But if you've got a good system in place, things run smoother, and you're less likely to get completely drained.
That makes sense. What about depersonalization? What did they find there?
Again, there's a negative relationship, actually a bit stronger this time. So similar to emotional exhaustion, if a teacher has higher classroom management self-efficacy, they tend to show less depersonalization. They're less likely to become detached and uninvolved, probably because they feel more confident and effective in their role.
Right. So it's like if you feel good about what you're doing, you're more likely to stay engaged and connected with the people around you. What about that third dimension, lowered personal accomplishment?
This one's interesting. Here they found a positive relationship, meaning teachers who have a higher sense of classroom management self-efficacy, they're actually more likely to feel a sense of accomplishment in their work.
Huh. So feeling in control of your classroom actually helps you feel more successful overall.
Yeah, it seems that way. It's not just about managing behavior. It's about creating a good learning environment where kids can actually learn. And if a teacher feels they can do that, they're going to feel more fulfilled.
Makes sense. And you mentioned earlier that the strongest connection they found was between CMSE and personal accomplishment.
Yeah, that's right. While all three relationships were significant, that one was the most pronounced.
Hmm. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a bit sobering to realize that teacher burnout isn't just, a problem in one school or one district. It's a global issue, right?
Oh, absolutely. The research shows that teacher burnout is a problem in countries all over the world. I
Hmm.
mean, we're talking Australia, China, Finland, France, Germany, Iran, Korea, Malaysia, the Netherlands, Spain, Turkey, the UK, the US. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And it's not just something that happens to teachers later in their careers either.
That's another important point. Burnout can affect teachers at all stages of their careers, even as early as student teaching. So it's something we need to be aware of and address right from the start.
The meta-analysis also mentions that teachers who experience higher burnout and those with lower self-efficacy are more likely to leave the profession.
Yeah, that's right. And that's a huge problem. We're losing good teachers because of burnout and lack of support.
So what are some of the things that contribute to this feeling of burnout, especially in relation to classroom management?
Well, one big factor is that teachers often feel unprepared to handle classroom management. They don't feel like they have the skills and strategies they need, so they end up feeling more stressed and eventually burn out.
Right. And then there are other factors like the increasing diversity of student populations, maybe less parental involvement.
Exactly. Those are all things that can add to a teacher's workload and make them feel more overwhelmed.
And what about changes in school accountability policies? How do those play into it?
But when you've got all these changes happening, it can create a lot of pressure and uncertainty for teachers. And if they don't feel supported by their schools in navigating those changes, it can really affect their sense of self-efficacy and make them more prone to burnout.
So basically, a lack of support can make things a lot worse.
Exactly. When teachers feel like they're on their own, it can really take a toll.
This all really points to how important it is for teachers to have good classroom management skills, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about creating a calm and productive learning environment for students. It's about protecting teachers from burnout.
And it's interesting because a lot of teachers actually say they don't feel prepared to manage a classroom when they first start out.
Yeah, that's a big issue. A lot of new teachers feel like their training didn't really prepare them for the reality of the classroom, and that lack of confidence can set them up for burnout.
So what can be done about this? What can teacher education programs and schools do to better support teachers in this area?
Well, teacher education programs need to put a lot more emphasis on developing classroom management skills.
Yeah.
It can't just be a few lectures. It needs to be hands-on, practical experience.
Right, like actually being in the classroom, working with students.
Exactly. They need to observe experienced teachers, get feedback, and practice their skills in a safe environment.
Okay, and what about once teachers are already in the field?
Well, mentoring is really important, especially for new teachers. Having someone to go to for advice and support, someone who's been there and knows how to handle those tough situations.
And I guess just creating a culture of support in schools in general.
Yeah, totally. Teachers need to feel like they can talk to each other, share ideas, and get help when they need it.
Now, it's important to remember that this meta-analysis, like any research study, shows associations, but it doesn't necessarily prove cause and effect, right?
Right. We can't say for sure that having good classroom management skills directly causes lower burnout, or the other way around. It's probably more complex than that.
And this study did have some limitations, of course.
Yeah, like any study, it only looked at a specific model of burnout and a specific type of self-efficacy, and would have been great to have even more studies included in the analysis.
Right, but it still gives us a lot to think about.
Oh, absolutely.
The meta-analysis also touches on the bigger policy implications of this issue, like how it affects teacher attrition and the whole focus on school accountability.
Yeah, and it suggests that policymakers really need to look at how they can support teachers who are at risk of burnout. If we know that burnout is a major reason why teachers leave, then we need to do something to address it.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, what would you say is the key takeaway from all this?
The big takeaway is that teachers who feel more confident in their ability to manage their classrooms are less likely to burn out. They're less likely to feel emotionally exhausted and depersonalized, and they're more likely to feel a sense of accomplishment in their work.
It really highlights the importance of giving teachers the tools and support they need to feel successful in the classroom.
Yeah, it's not just about giving them strategies, it's about helping them believe in themselves.
And that brings us to our final thought for you today. What can we, as a society, do to better support teachers in developing these skills and fostering that sense of self-efficacy? How can we help them avoid burnout and stay in the profession? Because ultimately, it's the students who benefit when we have confident and effective teachers. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.